Sweet. So hello. How's it going? Wheel over here. Try to clean the door so if anyone comes in, I will be terrified. Great. So thanks for venturing through the snow. Is it still snowing out? It wasn't a while ago. Oh, it is? Sorry. It's not bad. Whoa, wait.
Really windy.
Where did the Oreos and chips come from?
Under my desk.
Oh. Okay.
Do you want some?
No, I just didn't know where they magically appeared from, and I was very confused. So, well, awesome. Thanks, Kirsten.
Oh, they were left from whatever the last time was.
Mm-hmm. Right. We'll rock on. So we'll try and get through this today's lesson pretty speedily because I know it's snowing, and you probably want to get out before it gets bad because it's supposed to get bad around. I mean, it's not supposed to get bad till around 8, but still. So, like we did last week, 3-word check-in. How's it going? How's your week so far?
Slow.
Okay.
Good.
Ugh.
It's been busy, but boring.
Okay.
Boring busy. And
Is that one word or two?
that's 2 words.
Okay.
Busy but boring.
Okay.
I'm excited for the weekend.
Do you have big plans? Or just happy for the weekend to be here?
I have going to a retreat on Friday night,
Oh.
and then I'm going to the Nice dancing on Saturday, which I'm really excited about. See how that operates.
Did you do DM here?
Mm-hmm.
Very cool.
Yeah, interesting.
Good.
Are you participating in it or like?
No, we're just going to visit.
Oh.
Okay. Who's we? Is it you and a bunch of other?
So I'm on the executive council here.
Oh,
so we're as a group,
congratulations! I did not know that. That's awesome. So you're newly elected?
Yeah. Like as of 2 weeks or so.
Yeah. That's
So, yeah.
fantastic. Congratulations. That's huge. I got to experience that first DM this year, and it was pretty exciting.
Have you done it before? No. It's hard to
It's
explain.
intimidating.
Intimidating? Why is
I
it?
don't know. It's like,
I don't know.
No. It's hard to explain though. You can't I mean you can tell me what it is, but you have to experience.
You have to be there.
I watched it on TV.
Yeah.
There you go.
Very cool. So yes, I'm
Awesome.
excited about that.
Well, good.
What do you do?
Oh my. I'm anxious in both good and bad ways.
Mm-hmm.
For a lot. Stressed about getting everything I need to do done for Sunday.
It's not Sunday, just
I leave on Sunday for a conference in Las Vegas, so it's like Sunday is my finish
don't
line.
worry about it.
Yep, Sunday is like my finish line.
Mm-hmm.
So if I can just make it to Sunday, it's great. But until that, it's like I'm going to 1,000 miles an hour through Thursday. So I come back, like I have an overnight flight type situation thing, so I'll be back Friday.
You getting free time?
I don't know yet. I mean, it's a big conference, so
You'll have free time.
I might have free
If
time.
you skip the evening activities, you'll have free time.
It'll be
warmer, nonetheless.
It will be. It's
And you'll
supposed
get
to be
burned out.
mid-70s, and it's going to be
That's what
great.
conferences are all about, is making
What's
free
it?
time.
It's
what's
true.
it for?
So the program I'm in is Higher Education and Student Affairs, and in that there are 2 really big umbrella organizations. One is ACPA and one is NASPA. I don't know if you guys have heard of either of those. Okay. Well, there are 2 big umbrella conferences. One is ACPA, one is NASPA. This is the ACPA conference. American College Personnel Association.
Okay, cool.
So, I get to go and presenting a poster. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be
Woo!
great. Woo! Poster!
Line on the CV.
Then my 3rd word is I'll say content.
I like how our words always
Good place. through some housekeeping stuff. So thank you both for posting and doing all that stuff on the to-do list. Are those are helpful for you guys?
Yeah.
The to-do list? Good. Good. Kirsten, your brilliant idea is working. Wonderful. So I have another one ready to go. It'll be up tonight for you guys to look at and for you guys to do your little check marks off. Two of them are sort of long range activities, but I wanted to give you guys an actual due date. So for the resume, I know we talked about setting a date with Pomerantz Career Center, but Kirsten saw that there's no actual due date on the syllabus of the resume. So we're making it due by that Friday, which I think is March 30th.
Sure, okay.
March 30th by 5 p.m. in the Dropbox. So,
Okay, I know they can probably help me more when I go there, but so that first part of the resume thing, it's like, I don't remember the title, but it's like your qualifications. Is that what it is?
Mhm.
And you just pick random things that you think you're good at and like write it? Or, because it's, it's one's like good teamwork or something, I don't remember what they are.
So yours would be like
No, I'm sorry.
a reading endorsement, a tag endorsement, ESL endorsement. Eventually that's what they'll be.
Uh-huh.
So right now,
Because like, this is for an employer at like a school. So like how you're qualified for that position specifically.
right, so you might change it, you'll tweak it a little bit depending on what you're applying for.
March 29th. We'll say the 20, whatever that Friday is. So the 29th, yes.
However, we won't check until
Probably
Tuesday.
Tuesday morning.
Cool.
So there's a little, we're not gonna make it so the Dropbox closes because that's me.
Yeah. But if you could have it in there by Friday, that'd be great. As long as it's in there before Tuesday, we'll count it.
Okay. Cool.
So, but yeah, what other questions do you guys have on the resumes? Have you guys looked at them? At all? No? Okay.
Have you made appointments through
No.
Hire a Hawk?
That's,
Okay, how do we
do that?
It's not through like the career center, you like.
It's no longer through the TLC. It's now at Pomerantz.
Right.
I'm assuming if you Googled Hire a Hawk, Iowa, it would pop up.
There should be like an appointment button or
Mhm.
something, bar.
But it's through
And it's
Hire a Hawk?
Yes.
Just to
HireAHawk.com.
go over your resume and they just help you, right?
Mhm. Yep. So bring in.
So it can be totally crap when you go in. It'll be okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
As long as you have something. That was like the main point that was communicated is like, as long as you have something, like you could have this
Okay.
on a paper.
You can have a list of things that you've done.
Okay. And they'll format, have to
You'll
format
have-
it.
yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yep. I don't know if it would be beneficial to bring an electronic copy as well as a hard copy.
I think they'll ask when you, not
You
sure if
do
when you
the
do
appointment.
Hire a Hawk, but someone will contact you. I think
Gotcha.
they'll want an electronic copy before you go.
So you can edit. Good deal. And then the other big scope thing is the city training for IRB. So IRB is coming up shortly in a couple of weeks.
The last week before spring break.
So a couple of weeks, 2 weeks. So make sure that if you haven't already started it or looked at it, that you give it a look because it is, like I said last week, really time intensive.
I was gonna say, however,
Or are you making them do the short one?
I'm thinking because after they go through Hawk IRB, like the talk that she gives, it'll answer a lot of those kinds of questions. So it might be a little more fast-paced. I think you just do the short one.
Where's that?
Yeah, what is
IRB
supposed to look at exactly?
Google, Iowa, IRB. And then on the website, which I'll have her walk through, she'll go over how to get into it. But if you Google that, there'll be one that's like get certified or
CITI certified.
yeah.
I can post, I'll look up the path from Google and post it on the
Or
news.
just post the link.
Slash post the link.
So what exactly is this for? Because
so that if you decide to do a study through IRB, you have the training out of the way.
Okay, but you're not like,
You're not submitting anything to IRB.
No.
gotcha.
It's just that you say, okay, I've learned that I'm not supposed to spit on people. Got it.
Okay, so then if we did one of those studies where you have to have their approval or whatever, that's,
I
you
thought
still
you
have
had
to
to
do
have
it
like your
separate.
project approved.
You
not
do have
like
to have your-
self.
But
You have to have your project approved, but this is like the training you have to go
Okay.
through
That
before you
first.
can propose a project.
Okay.
Otherwise, you would have, like, when you met your mentor and were like, this is the project I had to do, you would have been roadblocked and been like, okay, have you done city training? You would say, no. You would say, okay, well, before we do anything with this, you need to do this. We're just getting it out of the way now.
So what do we need to have done before that week?
Nothing.
Oh, just like checking it kind of.
It might help answer some of your basic questions about IRB, like, why do we do this silly thing called IRB, or whatever. It might answer some general questions. So, those are my two little housekeeping things. Do you guys have any housekeeping or announcements,
Hmm.
anything? Kirsten!
Next week class is not here. It is in Icator.
Which
What?
is where?
I'm thinking it's in TLC area.
Okay, so Linguist.
Yes. It says it on the syllabus. Do you have a room number?
Oh,
By
no,
chance in
but
your planner? In the syllabus, it says where it is.
Okay.
As long as you have the most recent copy. Does it not say?
And 170.
There we go.
I was gonna say it's, I think it's back by the computer lab.
I will make a note, the
Maybe
checklist.
you better start rating yourself.
I'll
You got a
check
lot of
on
notes.
the checklist. Okay.
And Brittany will not be there because she will be partying.
Far and away.
And I will be there because I will not be partying.
I won't be partying. I will be making professional connections.
So you need IRB link, hire a hawk link, and reminder of moving, yeah. There you go.
I have another announcement, sorry. So I know I've gotten some emails about the Student Advisory Board. Our first meeting is this Thursday from 6:15 to 7:15 up in here. So if you're able to come, would like to be a part of the Student Advisory Committee, please join us.
I won't be there because I'll be in class, but
It's gonna be a
Yeah,
great,
partying.
she will be partying. I
all
will
the
be
parties
having-
I have.
You know, sometimes you just gotta. Anyway. All right. Any other housekeeping? Shall we dive in? Okay. So tell me what you guys thought about the methodology article that you had to read for today.
That was like quality, quality.
Mhm.
I can see there was a lasting impression.
Last impression. The graphic organizers were beautiful, by the way. And the questions were profound. I have those, so we can talk about them.
I thought it was helpful.
Okay. How so?
Just by like separating what the difference is between the two. I mean, for instance, like about like the hypothesis, one knows it going in and one like you collect the data first, right? And then make your hypothesis.
Can you have both?
And then you can do both.
We do both, it's called a mixed
Mixed
method.
But we really try to reserve that for people who have like PhDs or are getting their PhD or their master's, because it's a lot of work and very time intensive. So for your purposes, we're gonna focus on like a binary, it's either this or it's this when you guys do your honors projects. So, but it is possible to do a mixed method. You read about them all the time.
And a lot of them are not mixed method in actuality. They're like wannabe mixed method studies, but it takes a lot of time and energy, so.
Alright, so some discussion questions is how can I create a good balance between qualitative and quantitative research. What do you think? Well, not necessarily. Like in your research, like the research you actually go out and do, and like
You can collect both, but not necessarily. Go ahead.
no, go ahead. I'm posing this question to you. Is there a balance? Can you have
Well,
a
I feel like
balance?
you could collect, like even if you're collecting like qualitative research, like you're taking numbers and stats, like you could still make like quantitative observation. Or is that not?
You got them switched.
Oh, quantity number. So, okay, well, either way, so they can still make, but maybe that would just be making observations based on quantitative data. That's not, I don't know.
Hi.
Hi.
Hello.
I have been like,
Oh, I'm sorry.
I emailed you, I was like,
I'm so sorry.
I got in here and I was
I-
like 5 minutes late and then I got stuck in the stairwell and then I was
Oh,
like banging on the
no.
door
You
and
didn't
then,
come up this stairwell.
yeah, and then
Oh gosh.
then I was like, okay, I'll try the 5th floor and then I was like, and the lady, the janitor was like, I'm not supposed to let you in here. And I was
Okay.
like,
Oh, I'm so sorry. Here, pull up a chair. Sorry
You can grab one from
for
over
all
there.
of the crazy and.
So you tried to catch the elevator and it didn't let you?
yeah, no.
I kept trying to go to the 5th floor on the elevator and it was not letting me.
You have to go to the 3rd floor
Or
and
just
then
walk
take the
upstairs.
stairs and hit
You're
the
gonna laugh
stairs
really
at
hard
6
in my
o'clock
emails.
and it'll unlock and you can get in.
I had it after 6, yeah, like 6:10.
Yeah, 6 and
I probably closed at
until
6:15.
whenever.
I'll talk to Brian and see if we can get it extended.
6:30. Sorry.
Oh.
Okay, I
How's
didn't
some
think I
Oreos?
was like skipping class.
No, we thought people didn't come because of snow, so
Oh.
you're fine. No big deal. We're just talking about how can we create a good balance between qualitative and quantitative research. Is it necessary to create a balance?
You're gonna pass those chips
Or
around.
I guess I'm not really sure.
okay.
What, like, would difference, I mean, I don't know.
Okay.
Like, what would be like 2 examples of what would be a qualitative study as opposed to a quantitative study? Well, what were yours?
Like in my thesis, I did mostly quantitative. Actually, it was just quantitative, not mostly. It was quantitative. So I created a survey that was sent out to honor students and social Greek students at my old university, my old institution, and it asked some specific questions about like risky behaviors. So, how many times a week do you go out? And we defined what going out was. How many times when you go out during the week do you drink? When you drink, how many drinks do you have? And that generated some statistical type information. Some very hard, concrete snapshot of this is what these students do as a generalization. So it was very concrete, it was there, empirical evidence, done, game over. Now if I wanted to do a qualitative piece similar to that, something that I could have done would have been focus groups. So I could have done like a series of focus groups and asked similar questions. And asked maybe like some more why questions. So like when you go out, why are some of the reasons why you choose to drink if you choose to drink? Are there specific social contexts when you go out which make you want to drink more or whatever? And then based on those focus groups, I would pull some general themes out. So it's more of a like it adds depth to the research. Qualitative in general, I would say has more depth to it, whereas quantitative is more of a concrete snapshot.
Yeah.
If that
Qualitative
helps.
is about thick description. That's where you have like a paragraph of the person talking. So if she did a focus group, she would most likely record it
Mhm.
and then transcribe everything that's said and then analyze it.
So it's kind of like interpretative. So we're like, and that someone could come along and say like, well, I think you're wrong because they interpreted it a little
So
differently.
quantitative and qualitative is the way you collect your research, then how you, it's going to affect how you, like you can still present things and stuff. Like you can still draw kind of the same conclusions.
Right. It's
More or
about the
less.
way the way you collect is different, but also the way you analyze it.
Mhm.
Like numerically, whenever she did her survey, say, or whenever I did my survey, because mine was online, was yours online?
Yeah.
So you pull the data, you put it in a program, you click some buttons, and out pops a number that says this is correlated with this, and this is the significance of it. Like this is the significance, the chance it happened by accident. Whereas qualitative, it's, okay, I read through the interviews once. I read through the interviews, and pulled out certain themes. So now I'm going to reread through the interviews and see if I have more themes. Okay, now I'm going to categorize these themes, or I'm going to try and articulate what these themes are. And like you were saying earlier, that the way you come up with and you have your research questions is very different for qualitative versus quantitative. Like when you go into quantitative, you know what you're going to ask. When you go into qualitative, you have very, very broad research questions, or more like research area of focus. And then as you do your research, you're like, okay, this is more of a question that I can have, or that I, those kinds of ways of doing it.
So does it matter, like, do you think that we should have, like, equal amounts of both, or?
No, like we said earlier, that for the purposes of your honors projects, because mixed method study takes a long time, and it takes an even longer time to get good at, we really want to focus in the binary of you either do qualitative or you do quantitative.
Another one is better than the other. It's what you're studying, or the way you're planning on studying it will kind of dictate which method works best.
It's also a matter of preference too, I would say. So what you feel comfortable with, in addition to what your question, what your research interest lends itself to. So my question was really specific about stereotypes and stereotype formation, and what activities did or did not make those stereotypes true. So I knew, I was like, okay, so I want to find out what activities are happening or seem to be happening that create these stereotypes. Boom, done. Whereas if my broader question, to put it in like Kirsten's terms, was just about stereotype formation, the end.
And it could be like stereotype formation in Greek life.
Yes.
Because if that's what she wanted to. Of course, then she might start out with stereotype formation in Greek life, and then they're like, well, actually, this is how I form my thing, like outside of Greek life. And so then, there goes her question. She has to reassess.
Yeah. So, does that make sense? Yeah.
Or I did my survey, it was mostly multiple select on homeschooling. So like, here are your choices. Here are the number of, like, you can homeschool for these reasons. You can use these methods when you're homeschooling. You can do this, whereas opposed to saying, how do you homeschool your child? And then they would, write a paragraph. And then I would say, like, what do you use to homeschool your child? And then they'd write a paragraph. And then I'd say, what else do you want to talk about? And then they'd write 3 pages. And that's, And since there's a lot of, the reason I chose quantitative, besides it's faster and it appeals to me more, is a lot of the homeschooling research is qualitative. And it's focused on, here are my 3 families in here. Or here is what I have about this area. And so I'm like, well, I need to add something new to the literature base. If I do quantitative, I can get a snapshot of the nation as opposed to, so something a little more broad.
And Kirsten, that's a really great point too, is like, if most of the research on whatever topic you're looking at, most of what you're reading is one or the other, consider doing what's not done to fill that hole. Because you can cover the stuff that's already done. So if you have a proclivity to quantitative research and most of the research is qualitative, you can cite that in your lit review. That's a really great way to develop a really well-rounded lit review and a good answer to form that balance between qualitative and quantitative. So if you're finding all of this quantitative research and being like, wow, there are a lot of numbers associated with socioeconomic status, because
Or how to teach boys.
Or how to teach boys.
It's all percentages or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Then maybe you look at doing a qualitative spin on that, but putting those numbers in your lit review and be like, I took into account all of this other information that's already out there. My research is special because it's not that. Make sense? Mm-hmm. Awesome. So another question that was asked quantitative and qualitative evaluation involve judging or decision-making, they can be perceived as subjective, controversial, and emotionally and politically charged. What can be done to eliminate these elements as much as possible, or is it even possible to have a completely objective piece? Yeah, sorry.
You're at the top.
Sorry. First one. Can you have completely objective research? Why? Why do you think that? Tell me more.
I don't know, I feel like whatever, so say you do quantitative research and you get, these numbers and this percentage of people do whatever. I feel like you're always going to try and reason behind like why. I guess, but then you're asking them why. I don't know.
Or even like
I think.
in that, when you like hand out the survey, someone can say like, well, the questions you asked were, I don't know, leading questions to this, they were biased by like your own view, kind of.
Okay.
Well, I think, like when we were talking about voice, sometimes when you have a voice in your writing, it's really hard not to be, like, choose a side. So, I think that it probably can be done, but it's probably pretty difficult because someone's always going to have an opinion about what you wrote, whether you tried to make it one way or another.
Sure. So I'm hearing a lot of like opinion matters is like what I'm hearing is that, research it's based on opinion. You wouldn't be doing the research if you didn't think something was interesting. So that in and of itself has a little bit of bias behind it. Is that fair to say? But one way to answer the first question, to eliminate these elements as much as possible, that's why one of the reasons why we have an institutional review board and why we ask students who do research students who go through IRB or students who are doing substantial research with other people to go through IRB, because IRB is a great tool used to kick some of those things in the butt. And that's why we also ask you to have a mentor when you do your honors project, so you can take what you have already done and have another pair of eyes see it. So they can be like, you know what, that is a leading question, or you know what, that doesn't reflect what you want to ask appropriately. Let's talk about how we can restructure that to make it more neutral of a question. So I think personally that all research is biased a little bit because that interest component, but I think it can be tapered down to be more neutral and to be more inclusive, I guess, if you will.
And that's,
Everyone's
I was gonna
opinions.
say, and also when you're writing it up, depending on what your biases are, what style of research you're doing, especially if it's qualitative, you will have at least one paragraph that says, this is my background, like this is why I chose this topic. These are the potential biases that, so that it's like, what's that word? So it's like a disclaimer.
Yes.
I can't remember what the word is that I'm looking for because there's actually a name for it. But it's a disclaimer about,
Rationale?
kind of like a rationale piece. But it's also when you're interpreting your results, so in your discussion question, the more you have sources from outside that support it. So these are the conclusions I draw, and they are similarly aligned to, McGraw et al. 97, because then it's like, oh, well, other people have these same conclusions. It gives yours a little bit more validity type of thing.
Yep. And two, in addition to the disclaimer piece, at the end of your discussion, you can also talk about limitations. So what
You will also talk
you
about
will also
limitations.
talk about limitations. So what things, as I was researching and doing all of this and putting this together, did we what?
So I took it, I fixed it, but I forgot to put the cartridge back in the printer.
Oh, okay. I was like, what are you doing? But yeah, your limitations will be like, what did I leave out? What things didn't I consider that future researchers might want to consider? Or might I reconsider if I revisit this? So, it's necessarily what I did wrong, because it's not necessarily what you did wrong, but it's, what was left out, what other considerations can be made so that it's more inclusive, in terms of what you're researching, the populations you research, how you did your research, all that good stuff.
And there will always be limitations.
Always.
So it's not like
Always and forever.
if you decided to go to grad school and you got your PhD and you did research for 60 years, you would still have limitations.
Yeah, and two, that's one of the reasons why people revisit theories all the time. I mean, how many times have you seen, like, some researcher or something cite another person's theory in their own, like, theory work? That's why this sort of exists, because there is that, like, personal slant.
And then there's like, even within like Bloom's taxonomy, it's redone by different people. That's one that I think you're supposed to have heard about by now. Yes, okay.
I had to read about it for class this week. I was so excited. I was like, I know what this is. I was thrilled. Absolutely thrilled. All right. The last question that was posed is, the article says, quote, "A poorly designed evaluation yields unusable results," end quote. What is the best way to organize and create these evaluations? Or methods? I took it as like the tool, like a survey. Yeah, like a survey, or like just your methodology, how you go about doing things. What do you guys think is the best way to organize it?
Can you reread the question?
Yeah, I'm sorry. So the article says, quote, "A poorly designed evaluation or methodology yields unusable results. What is the best way to organize and create these evaluations?"
Well, I think obviously you need to be like this unbiased, responsive, or like just aware of like different cultural context and you're working in, like how to structure yourself within that. I guess maybe even like having written things can, discriminate towards certain people, like certain groups.
What do you mean by that?
Like if you're, I don't know, so you're surveying like a group of people that aren't that can't all read, and
Okay.
you give them a written survey,
Okay.
like, I don't know, so just being like aware of your population and what the restrictions and it's just like that.
Okay.
I don't know if that's really instruction as much as it is like giving.
Well, I mean, that's poor design. That's poor design. Here, read this.
Yeah, giving kindergartners a
Yeah.
survey.
Right.
That's poor design, yeah. What else? What's the last one?
Language and stuff. I don't know.
Language.
Yeah.
So the use of like
Well, don't give like,
jargon or
like a population that's like predominantly Hispanic speaking, or like, you know what I mean, or like speaks Chinese, and don't give them a survey in Arabic. Or English.
Yeah. I speak Chinese, give it in Arabic.
hey, just do it. It's fine.
A little multilingualism.
Yes,
you know?
and jargons too.
Because I mean, one like term of jargon in the Northeast United States could be very different and mean something very different in Texas, right? Or it might mean nothing in Texas.
Because
They
the
might look at
Northeast
the word
is
and they're
right,
like, what?
and Texas is wrong. That's
No, not necessarily. But those are great examples. What else?
I don't know. I guess I have this question too.
All right. Well, another thing with design is that you want to be sure that you are as complete as possible, and that what you're asking, so your tools that you're using to ask, really ask the information that you want to know. So if you want to know, like, I think the example I put on the post was in relation to you're buying pizza for a group of people. If you ask everyone, hey, who wants pizza? That gives you a pretty good gauge of like how popular pizza will be, like how many people will want pizza. But that doesn't tell you the type of pizza, what toppings they want, how much it's going to cost,
How many pieces
they'll eat. So there's a lot of other information that you want to know that first question doesn't ask. So whenever you're creating your methodology, you want to be sure that you are asking everything that you want to ask. Like, and I always sort of approach it like this question with, you need to dumb it down to the point where you're like, okay, this is like a duh answer. Like, this is something that's very duh. Like defining the term going out for college students. For many college students, not all, but for many, that has the same connotation of, you know, we're going out. But for some college students, they might be like, well, does that mean we're going to the mall? We're going to the movies? We're going to a house party? We're going to a rave? What does that mean? So in order to fully have people answer that question, I had to define it.
What did it mean?
I put any time that you were in a social setting of 4 or more people.
So it could be going to the
So it
mall.
could be going to the mall.
Mm-hmm.
Getting wasted at the mall.
Study group.
Well, and then we further defined of when you go out, do you frequent, or when you go out, do you go to mall, do you go to house parties, do you go to bars, do you go to, and then we like listed some common things that you might do, to movies, all that. So, but if I were just to ask the question, how many times a week do you go out? Some people might answer like 15. Because I go to the mall once a week, I go to class, I go to sporting events. And for some people, they might be like, oh, 3 times. But those 3 times are on Thursday, Friday, Saturday night. Twice each night. Actually. So. Anything
So
to add
that
about
is
the
called
poorly designed
operationally
evaluation?
defining. So you give an operational definition. So even when I did the homeschooling, even though my answer choices for my survey were taken from research and other people's surveys, in the survey itself it said, do you use classical homeschooling? Parentheses. Teach by rote, including Latin, Greek, da-da-da-da-da-da. End of parentheses. So that,
people do that?
it wasn't as many as people who create their own curriculum. So that was, so when they get there and they're like, well, these two sound really similar to me, or Bobby Joe says that she goes out, or Bobby Joe says she uses classical, and I say I do unschooling, but really my definition of unschooling isn't the same as your so that we have continuity across responses, which also helps with validity and reliability.
Yay!
So do you want to talk about validity and reliability?
Oh, I always get them confused. So if I switch them, please correct me.
Okay.
I will preface that. So validity is how valid is your research, your data that you've gathered. So if you have to retest it, how many times if you retest it will it be the same?
Right.
Yes. So like
Does it measure what you want it to measure?
and by how much? And then reliability is the, oh my gosh, I'm like failing at this.
So validity
Talk about
validity
reliability.
is, does it measure what you want it to measure? Reliability is, if I measure it again and again and
Okay.
again and again and again, am I still going to get the same results? Assuming it's not something that's changing. Like, if I ask you, is it going to be, so a reliable question would be like, your height today, your height tomorrow, your height, like, pretty much, I mean, it'll slowly go down over time, but if you measured yourself, if only. The shoes get higher, you get taller. So that's a good example. All right. So pretty much if you're standing flat-footed on the ground, it's going to be reliable day after day when you go and you measure yourself. Now you can't say you were 6 years old, and and we measure and we measure and measure, and you're getting taller and taller, we can't say, because they're getting taller, they're getting smarter, right? So that wouldn't be valid, that we're using your height to say how smart you are. Because I would have stagnated in 7th grade.
Yep. Yep.
So it's one of those, so validity is all about, how, like, am I measuring what my goal is to measure, and reliable is, if I keep doing it, am I going to get the same answers back?
Thank you. I feel like you explained that much better than I would have.
This is my 3rd year of hearing it in my class.
It's been a while since I took research methods. Gonna lie, a little rusty.
So, and also along with the research method part of how you can make it so that you don't have, what is that terrible thing?
Unusable results.
You don't have unusable results is having reliable and valid measures, but it's also having a procedure that's fairly well set. So, especially if you're going to do an experiment, which most likely, I don't think many of you will, but if you do an experiment, like, you need to have your spiel down pat. Or I did structured interviews with the research team, and it was like, hi, my name is Kirsten. I am here to talk to you about this today. We're going to ask questions. These things are covered by confidentiality. This means blah, blah, blah. Here's question 1. You know, so it's very prescribed so that it's not, you know, Brittany's over like, hey, what's up? And I'm over here, hi, my name is Kirsten. You know, that would cause unusable data. It would cause a lot of co-founding variables to develop.
Yep.
And cross-checking your method with your mentor will help pull those things out before they become a problem.
An awesome example of sort of keeping those procedures systematic and organized is the last job I had before I came here. I worked at a call center, and we did surveys. We did over the phone political surveys. Great job. Oh man.
Did it pay well?
Nope. But it was very interesting because it was before the election, and there are some people with very strong feelings on both sides of the political spectrum. But that's another discussion. But in our training, we were taught how to read the surveys over the phone. And it was made very clear to us, no matter how mean or nice or whatever the person on the other end of the phone is, this is how you have to read a question. You have to read it without emotion. You have to, like, dictate it. You have to use the phonetics that are on the screen. Like, so some of the words, one of the surveys had to do with some foreign country names that could be, like, tomato, like some people say in one way and some say another. You had to say the way that it
like
was.
Iraq and Iran.
Yeah.
Like, versus Iraq, Iran.
Yeah. You had to say it how it was phonetically spelled on the screen, or you got docked points or whatever
Take that out of your
system it
pay.
was. No, they wouldn't
Pennies
take
out of your pay.
They wouldn't take it out of your pay, but they would, like, write you up. You'd be written up. Because they would, like, listen in on your calls. And so there would be some people, you know, who you would just fly through the survey, and you'd be done, and you'd be like, thank you very much, have a great night. And there would be other people, like, there was once a man who was not a native English speaker, and it took me 45 minutes to get through a 10-minute survey, what was supposed to be a 10-minute survey. And, like, he kept asking for, like, definitions of certain words, and you couldn't provide those because they weren't provided on the screen. And in order to have that continuity of the research and of the responses, you had to just go with it. He was a very nice man.
I was going to say, you stayed
Must
on the
have been
phone
the
for
stand,
45 minutes.
Yeah, no, he was a very nice
survey.
man, but in order to maintain that continuity, we had to be like, I'm sorry, sir, it says this. It's what you believe this to be.
So, but in your research, now that you're all, like, crapping your pants, it's not going to be that important. Because most likely you're going to end up doing some version of a qualitative type study or even a quantitative study. But because you most likely won't be publishing or submitting for publication, it's not as important. And also because if it's a small scale study and you're the only one who's administering it, it's going to be you, and you're pretty much going to stay more or less the same across. And it depends on, like, the project, what kind of methods you need to have, and how important the strictness. Because in qualitative, it's a lot less strict. If you're doing, like, if you're observing, or if you're doing focus groups, there's a lot less strict because you have to pull the information out of the people, so you're gonna end up throwing in questions that you haven't planned. So, take a deep breath and feel scared.
This is not meant to scare you.
As your mind's reeling, oh my goodness, this is impossible.
Promise. It's not meant to scare you. So what other questions or thoughts do you have about qualitative versus quantitative? What do you think your style is more leaning toward? Or your preference, if you had to pick one?
I think I like quantitative.
Okay.
I don't know if that'll work the best, but I like quantitative.
Okay.
I like that response. That I like quantitative, but I don't know if it'll work the best. Because it's hard to fit something. Sometimes it's an unnatural fit. And so sometimes no matter how much you want to do quantitative and how much you want to study this one topic, if you do it, it's not going to be a good fit, so you're going to get crap out.
I think that I like quantitative, but no wait, I like qualitative,
Okay.
but like with what I want to research, I think that's like a lot's been done with like statistics and stuff like that. So
What are you thinking about, Reyes?
Like socioeconomics.
Okay, I thought that was
so like
yours.
most of the stuff out there is like, you know, 49% or
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't
Is it
know.
all-
I would like to be able to do quantitative because it sounds pretty straightforward, but
yeah.
I don't know.
There's still wiggle room in quantitative.
Yeah.
Don't worry.
Oh yeah.
There's wiggle room everywhere.
Oh yeah. Especially when you have to recode everything and we won't talk about that.
Luckily, you're at the University of Iowa, and there are resources to help whenever you have quantitative problems.
Yes, there are. You are very lucky.
So,
Very lucky. Awesome. Well, that's all I really have.
that's all I have. Do you want to recap the announcements?
I actually have a question.
Yeah.
I'm like stressed about this IRB thing.
Yeah, the city
Don't stress
training.
about
Don't stress about
Don't
it.
stress about it.
What is it? Like I'm just like, I don't know,
The training or putting
Yeah.
stuff through IRB or both?
both.
Both? Okay. So city training will answer a lot of general questions you have about IRB.
And that's all online?
Yes.
And
It's
the
all online.
and she's gonna put the link on the Icon site.
So you guys can
It
get
might
to
actually already be on Icon. and
Okay,
the
so
links.
maybe I should just take the training and then not be, once I take that, maybe I'll feel better about it.
Yeah.
So March 12th,
Mm-hmm.
we have an IRB person coming to talk to us.
Okay.
And she's gonna give the overview of IRB, like why IRB, what is IRB, when you have to go through IRB, here's some other questions we have. And then at that point, you're allowed to ask her any question related to IRB that you have. So if you have some and you've been trying to keep hold of them, feel free to put them in a discussion question
Mm-hmm.
or just write a list and keep it with you.
Okay. And then when's the training due by?
Syllabus, Kelly.
Does anybody have a syllabus? I think it has a due date,
It does.
but I don't know if it's actually
It's in
accurate anymore.
March.
Is it after she comes or?
Is it by the Here, it's on the other side. The assignments. March 5th. March 5th.
Okay, so we're gonna change
We're gonna
that
change
meeting.
that 'cause that's next week.
Yeah, so we'll change
Okay,
it till
and
after
I've been like,
she comes.
I've been like,
Do you want to do like the week after spring break?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Let's do the week after spring break. So you have all of spring break
you just made
and.
my life so much better.
Sorry, I forgot that we had moved her from earlier in the semester and
Till
didn't change
later.
that.
So instead of, I'll just give you a date, instead of March 5th,
Did I write this down?
Or it won't be the week after spring
26th.
break because that's the
That's
week
when your
of resume. That's
Yes.
resume week.
Oh,
So week after
and
resume
then
week.
with the resume, I've been
April 2nd.
trying to get on, and I don't know if I'm like stupid, but I can't figure out how to set up a
No,
meeting.
do it the week of the resume.
March 26th.
Do it the Tuesday of the week of the resume. And then the resume is due Friday, which is
So-
actually Tuesday of the following week.
So IRB is due the 26th.
Yes.
And resumes are due
29.
the 29th with some leeway
Till Tuesday.
till Tuesday.
Okay.
You will not be docked points until Tuesday.
Monday and you want to get it out of your hands, awesome. If your appointment is Friday, / you forget about it, Tuesday is the for real deadline, final deadline.
Tuesday at 9:30, because that's when I get it. 9:30 in the morning Tuesday, they will start to get checked. Because I will go on to print them and put them in your files. You do have files.
Magical, mystical files of wonder.
Your applications are in there, your reasons for teaching are in there. I think that's it, right? Yeah. I like to file paper. Still those trees. Do you want to go over the rest of the deadlines just so that?
Yeah, so resumes, that Friday, IRB, So iFader is next week. It is not here. It is in Lindquist and 170. So please don't come here next week because no one will be here. We will be in Lindquist.
I might be here.
Kirsten might be
By
here.
accident.
I won't be here because according to Kirsten, I will be partying it up.
She will.
Not true.
Okay, so Tuesday class is in what room?
170 and 170.
Of Lindquist.
Mm.
Okay. We're going to be talking about assistive technology.
Anything
Woo!
else?
I don't think so. The
Alright.
checklist for this week will be up on the website tonight. Feel free to check on that. The links probably won't be up till tomorrow. Just gonna put that out there.
Are you guys going on the show?
Sound good? Any other questions, comments, concerns, threats?